Okay guys, I have a very short video. This week we are just reviewing everything that we have learned. This is going to be week 8, so I want you to just kind of sit back and relax for a few minutes, and we're going to review over our essay basics. Alright, you should know these. You're probably sick and tired of me talking about them. That's great. That means that you know them, right? If you're tired of me talking about them. Alright, so our essay basics. So obviously, in all of our essays, we have to have an introduction, we have to have a body, we have to have a conclusion, right? In our introduction paragraph, we need to make sure that we have our hook and a thesis. Your hook will come at the beginning of your introduction paragraph. A hook can be a question or a quote or an anecdote, just something to try and engage your reader, to try to grab their attention, to keep them reading. Of course, you know that I'm going to read your paper because I have to grade it, right? But you don't really want to approach it that way. You want to think about it as in, okay, if I had somebody who just, they were going to pick up my paper and read it, what would I do to grab their attention, right? So you want to make sure that you focus on trying to develop a hook for your introduction paragraph. Next, we have our thesis. In every thesis, you have your topic, that is the topic that your essay is about, but then you also have a claim. So, and a lot of you are doing really well with this, but your claim is think about it as your point of view, or your perspective, or your angle, or your opinion, or your position on your topic. So we're not just talking about our topic, but what is our perspective? What is our opinion on it? What is our position on it? That's your claim, and you want to make sure that you have that, because you spend your entire paper talking or explaining why you believe what you believe, right? What your opinion is, why you believe it, or why it's valid, right? All right, so introduction, make sure you have a hook, make sure you have a thesis. Remember, your thesis, it's called a statement. It doesn't have to be one sentence. It can be 2 sentences, even 3, but 1 to 2 sentences should be plenty. Most of you are doing great getting your thesis statement into 1 sentence, and that's wonderful. Also, keep in mind that your thesis statement comes toward the end of your introduction paragraph. Next section of the essay is the body, right? You need to make sure that you have at least 3 paragraphs, though you can have more, and each paragraph should directly relate to and support your thesis. Keep in mind, even I do this too. Whenever we're doing our outlines or our first drafts, sometimes we'll end up adding a paragraph that's off topic. So just keep in mind that if your paragraph in your body does not directly relate to and support your thesis, you need to take it out. Okay? All right. The next section is your conclusion. Next section of your essay. In your conclusion, you will want to restate, paraphrase your thesis. You'll also want to summarize your essay. And a lot of times, in restating your thesis, you kind of summarize your essay too, so a lot of times you can do that simultaneously in the same sentence. Another thing you want to make sure that you do, and some of you have been doing really well with this, you can do one of these 2 things, or you can do both. It's up to you. Challenge your reader in thought or action. So challenge them to think a certain way or to do a certain thing. You can also, so kind of like an and or thing, you can do both, or you can do one or the other. Try providing a so what factor, right? So in thinking about your thesis statement, so what, right? I've written this paper, I've said all of this. Why? Why does it matter? Why does it matter to me? Why should it matter to you? Why should it matter to our culture? So these are some different questions that you could ask yourself and try to provide the so what factor in your conclusion. It really ties things up. It helps the reader to not only refocus on your thesis statement, but why your thesis statement is important, right? And then lastly, transitions. Transitions are the words and phrases that you use to link your paragraphs together, to link your ideas together. They guide your reader from one point to the next. And the great thing about transitional words and phrases is that you can either end a paragraph with a transitional phrase, or you can begin a new paragraph, whatever works for you. Sometimes it works better to kind of end with a transitional word or phrase in one paragraph and then just start the next paragraph. Sometimes it's easier to put a transition word at the beginning of a new paragraph. So just keep in mind that usually happens like in the revising process, when you're going back and you're looking at your ideas, making sure that all of them relate. And then the next step in that is to say, okay, now have I made sure that I'm leading and guiding my reader from one idea to the next. All right, so this is our basic essay review. You want to make sure you have all the criteria for your introduction, all the criteria for your body, all the criteria for your conclusion, and then make sure that you add in those transitions. All right, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about a thesis. We've been talking about it week by week, right? But I found this explanation very helpful, and I hope that maybe it'll kind of help make more sense to you about what a thesis is and what it does. All right. All right. So it says, I'm just going to read it. A good thesis will make a claim. This does not mean that you have to reduce an idea to an either-or proposition and take a stand. Rather, you develop an interesting perspective that you can support and defend. This perspective should be more than an observation. America is violent is an observation. Americans are violent because they are fearful. The position that Michael Moore takes in Bowling for Columbine is an argument. Why? Because it posits a perspective. It makes a claim. Put another way, a good thesis sentence will inspire rather than quiet other points of view. One might argue that America is violent because of its violent entertainment industry, or because of proliferation of guns, or because of the disintegration of the family. In short, if your thesis is positing something that no one can or would want to argue with, then it's not a good thesis. But I particularly liked this here. So whenever I say that your claim should be debatable, I don't mean that you have to choose a controversial topic. It doesn't have to do with that. It has more to do with you need to develop an interesting perspective that you can support and defend in your paper. Okay? Hope that helps make a little more sense regarding thesis statements. You are doing much better with your thesis statements. So I want to let you know you're doing very well. But I thought I always, when I come across a good explanation, I like to share that with you if I can. All right. Thanks for watching. This has been just the Essay Basics Review video. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and thanks.